guys, so today in stats we're going to learn about something called the ICCI. This is a 4-step process to find the population mean, and we identify, we find the conditions, we calculate, and then we interpret the results. And what does it mean to identify? That's our first step. So that means that you try to find what the problem is trying to ask you, and you also think about what kind of interval you're going to use. So there's 2 types of intervals, T and Z.
What's the difference? Oh, I know. You use Z whenever you know the population standard deviation, but you use Z to estimate the mean population using the second standard deviation.
That's right, Party, but know that you use T when you do not know the population standard deviation. But great job. And also know that when you're using the T interval, you use n-1 degrees of freedom, which is the sample size minus 1. The second letter that we need to prove is C, and that's conditions. We need to prove 3 conditions in order to conduct our calculation for confidence intervals. And these 3 conditions are random, independent, and normal. Now the question's always going to tell us if it's random. Yes, Party?
Why does it have to be random? Why can't we just pick a number?
Because random eliminates bias and it creates roughly equal experimental groups. When we use random, we get a group that's not differentiated by bias or because it's not picked by the people, right? The last condition we need to prove is normal. The distribution needs to be normal for us to carry on. In case of the mean, we use the central limit theorem to prove this. The CLT states that the sample size has to be greater than or equal to the number 30 for us to carry on. Now just so you know, the T distribution is robust.
What does that mean?
That means that the T distribution is strong enough to handle a little bit of skewness and does not get altered. The next thing we need to do is calculate our confidence interval. Now, our formula for the Z interval is X bar plus or minus Z star times the population standard deviation over the square root of n. Now make sure the population standard deviation is given to you in order to use Z. For the T interval, we use X bar plus or minus T star times the sample standard deviation over the square root of n. In this case, this is the sample statistic, X bar, and T star is already given to you. It's a critical. So don't waste your time actually calculating this out. Use a calculator. For the TI-84 Plus, you go to Stat, scroll over to Tests, scroll down to Z interval in order to do your Z. Here, scroll over to the Stats part and enter your values. Enter the population standard deviation, X bar, and the confidence level that the question gives you. And then scroll down to calculate. This will give you the different values. In order to do T, go to the same place and scroll down right below Z interval to T interval and enter the same values to do the same.
I'll show you how to do it on the Casio.
Sure, go ahead, Party.
Okay, so what you do is in menu, you go to 2, which is statistics. And then right over here, F4, you see enter, and that means interval, so you press that. And then according to whether you want the Z or the T, you press, so we're just gonna do it, Z, put the Z. And then you pick one sample right here, which is F1. And then what you could do is that you can do list or variable, but I find it a lot easier to do variable. You just plug in your confidence level here in decimal form. So if you're 99% confident, you just do 0.99. And then you put in your standard deviation, your mean, and then the number, or like the population, I guess. And then you scroll down, yes, that means sample size. And then once you have it all plugged in, you press execute right here, little button. And then the answer should come up.
The last thing we need to do is to interpret our confidence interval. In order to do this, we say the following statement. Repeat after me.
Yeah.
Not yet, Party. Okay. We are X% confident that the interval from blank to blank captures the true mean number of blah blah blah.
We are X% confident that the interval from blank to blank captures the true mean number of blah blah blah.
But not just blah blah blah, you have to apply it to the question, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we get that shit.
Okay, that's it.
Wow, but that's kind of a lot to remember.
Yeah, it is. Maddie, are you listening to music? That is so wrong. You deserve serious punishment.
Don't worry about it. This teacher doesn't really notice anything.
That's not true. Well, does what you're doing have any relevance to stats?
Yes it does.
Really? Well, let's hear it then.
Yeah, because she says IGUI, which rhymes with ICCI.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. How
Oh,
does
yeah, it does. Okay. ICCI, what's that? What's that? Identify, interpret, that's right, that's right. Conditions be random, independent, what's next? Look for normal through CLT, and that's a check. Yeah, ICCI, what's that? What's that?
Okay, well, yeah, I guess if that makes sense to you and that helps you remember, then Maddie's the hero.
Maddie,
Yeah,
since you
whatever.
saved us all, Coach Kem's gonna give us a picnic, right?